Tivo or not Tivo? That is the question. Whether 'tis nobler to subscribe and suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fees, or to take up arms against a sea of providers, and, by opposing, end them.
Gaucho.
Hey Gauchos, it's your old buddy Marv, and this week you may be wondering why I'm dressed like someone shaved the head of Meatloaf, a reference you younger Gauchos will not even get. Well, you're not alone in wondering why I'm dressed like this, and holding a fuzzy pink skull, reworking a Shakespearean soliloquy. I'm sure my next door neighbors are wondering the same thing. Well, because this week's Gauchocast is about Tivo, specifically about DVRs in general. And if you're one of these people who has been still buying videotapes and loading them into a VCR and programming them, well, 1989 called and they want their VCR back. But these days everyone's using DVRs. If you're not, here's a quick Gaucho guide to whether you should get a Tivo or one of the other market options, including your own cable company or satellite provider's DVR, and I'll give you a quick rundown on that. So welcome to the Gaucho Test living room, I guess, also known as my living room. And since this week we're talking about DVRs, I figured full disclosure right away. You can see I have a Tivo HD unit, Tivo Series 3 HD. I'm real happy with this. This is actually my second Tivo. I got it after my first Tivo went on the fritz, and I actually got it refurbished on woot.com for a real savings. First, the lowdown on Tivos, since they're kind of my personal recommendation. They're the one I have the most experience with, so keep in mind you're talking to someone who is more or less a Tivo devotee, if that makes sense. So Tivo units can run between $150 and $500 depending on what you want. If you want just the base model versus the HD with the multiple inputs and the great things and the internet and whatnot. And service costs about $12.95 a month if you get the month to month, and then they have plans running up to a lifetime service agreement for the unit. It's $400, but what you find out later on is that's lifetime service on the unit itself. In other words, it's not Tivo service for the entire life of you. It's for as long as the unit lasts. And I did mention this was my second Tivo, right? So you get the $400 lifetime service agreement on the unit, and if it goes out in a couple years, like I've had this one about 2 years. The previous Tivo I had for about 2 years before it started to go out. And so I'm really glad I didn't get the lifetime service agreement on the first one, because that's kind of $400 extra down the drain. Now, if you get the top of the line Tivo and the service agreement, that comes to roughly $900. So, but it's all paid for. You're not month to monthing it. You own it outright, and that's kind of what I like about Tivos in general. So let's talk about the interface on the Tivo for a minute. That's part of what I like about it. I've used some cable system DVRs and other cable systems, and I've used DirecTVs and Dish Networks, and while they're all fine, I really prefer Tivo's screen interface because it's a lot like the old iPod, pre-iPod Touch era screen. It's really easy to set up, really intuitive, works in just kind of data trees where your favorite shows are folders with delay. You can set it up so it's the last 5 or last 10 episodes or whatever before it starts to delete them automatically. And Tivo's interface is really, really intuitive in figuring out what kind of shows you like. So if you tell it what kind of shows you like, or directors or actors you like, it's good at picking up those shows. It can be a little misleading if, let's say, you see something kind of wacky on an episode of Cops and you record Cops. Well, guess what? If that's all you ever record, then a couple days later you're going to turn on your Tivo and be like, hey, why are there every episode of Judge Judy, Judge Joe Brown, Real Stories of the Highway Patrol, World's Wildest Police Chases? They'll all be on there. They'll all be on there. You'll have hours and hours of everything related to law enforcement. Which is kind of awesome and also kind of lame, but you can, as the Tivo learns what you like and don't like over time, it gets a lot better at figuring this out. Now, this feature is also available on other DVRs, not all of them, but some of them give you a chance to say, this is what I like, this is what I don't like. So So while I was researching this episode of Gaucho TV, I was looking to find out what the deals are on different cable systems and different satellite providers for their DVRs, because almost all the major ones offer it. I live where only Time Warner Cable is available, but I know Comcast has one, and Comcast covers a huge chunk of the nation. Cox Cable has one, and that's a big, in the Midwest, they're pretty powerful. As well as Dish Network and DirecTV. All of them offer them. The problem is, if you go to their websites, particularly Comcast's, I found very frustrating. Everything has to be bundled, and so it really doesn't explain who offers what and how much it is. All I know is that in most of these cases, you don't own the box. You're leasing the box from the company. Maybe it's different with the dish providers, but you're pretty much, you're not out of pocketing a big chunk of change and a box you keep from your cable providers. Usually you're leasing the box in the same way you lease a cable modem. And every month you just make a payment on it, and then someday you end up having to give that back to them. Now there is a third option. For those of you who don't want to go the Tivo route, and Tivo being the best known commercial DVR right now that's not attached to a cable system or satellite provider, there's a thing called Boxy. And I really recommend Boxy, even though I have not myself used it. I've seen it in action, and their website's awesome. You can check them out at boxy.tv. Now, real cool service, but it requires internet and electronic savvy. So it runs on Windows, Mac, and Linux boxes. What it is you can put your own computer by your TV and hook up Boxy, and it will work with your computer, and it works kind of like a TiVo. It also can stream Netflix, but the TiVo also does that. It can stream Pandora. Basically, it's sort of a convergence of the internet and TiVo for your computer-based television. And that's really where it seems like things are going. So Boxy is kind of on the leading edge of this. And you can watch a video demo at their site. Check that out. Prices on the Boxy situation, well, once you buy the computer and hook it up, the service is actually free. You download the software, and there's no monthly service charge. You're just using it. Now, what does that mean for support? Well, support's probably not going to be as good since they don't have an infrastructure that's making money. But if you're computer savvy and you don't mind fooling around with electronics, it's a pretty cool option. So what am I saying? Well, basically, if you are still using a VCR, well, stop that, because tape is so 1989. These days, everyone's using DVRs, and it's a great way to time shift your viewing and make the most of your TV viewing. Highly recommend the TiVo because the price is really clear on the website, easily delineated, works with all cable systems, all service providers, works terrific. Otherwise, also recommend Boxy for you guys who like to do homebrew stuff. If you like messing around with technology and having access to a different type of content, boxy.tv. You can download the software there and use it with pretty much any minimum spec meeting Mac, Linux, or PC box. So check that out, or you can try the Boxy box, which is really cool. And if you've got a cable provider or satellite provider and want to use their DVR, good luck figuring out how much they actually charge for it, because they make their sites really hard to figure that information out with. Hint, hint, Comcast. Yeah, I'm talking to you. A couple pieces of business before I wrap up this week's episode of Gaucho TV. We're going to be doing Gaucho TV live at this URL. Check it out. It's going to be this Thursday, February 25th, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. Yeah, that's right. So check us out. I'll be talking to Julia from the Frugal Find. We'll have stuff to give away. Join us then for live, Gaucho TV live. Not just like, this is awesome, right? But live, come on, forget about it. It's like taking Wayne Newton and putting him in Vegas. Doesn't make any sense. Okay, and finally, start following me on Twitter. I now have a Twitter account. It is twitter.com/GauchoMarv. That's twitter.com/GauchoMarv. If you follow me, then I will follow you back, and we can follow each other into a beautiful future of savings, or something like that. That's all for Gaucho TV this week. I will see you next time. In the meantime, 3D. It's not really 3D. I don't have the stuff. for 3D. See ya.